Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Ryan Wilson. I'm the Executive Director of Arizona NORML. And with us today, we are joined with Mike Robinette, Southern Arizona NORML, and Todd Gilchrist with Arizona NORML. Thank you guys for joining us. We've got some interesting topics for discussion here today. Prop 207.
What?
What's that, right?
What?
No one's heard of Prop 207 before, I'm sure, especially out here in Arizona. It's not a big topic, that people are talking about. It's not something that has a lot of questions surrounding it, right? Yeah, I don't think so. I think there are a lot of questions. I'd like to start off, this past week, we've been doing some of these live streams, and we try and keep them short, guys, 5, 10, 15 minutes here, doing first thing in the morning. But, one of the topics that was brought up when I was actually talking with Todd here was, some of the history, some of the things that, you have to worry about with these low level, convictions that go on your record. And the impact it has on your life as you start moving forward, or try and move forward with your life. And Todd, if you can just go briefly over, kind of what had happened to you in the past and how it's affected your ability to get a job in a treatment first or a treatment, state here. Not, what was it that was said, that there's treatment options first, instead of just going straight into, the penalties, the criminal penalties and all that. Well, Todd, how has that worked out for you?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. I lost my audio, so I can't hear you right now. But concerning the expungement stuff, I'm still feeling the effects of a 2009 low-level conviction for a 0.5 gram of marijuana here in Arizona, and I still cannot get a job in my field because of it. So that right there can tell you that these laws are just so archaic and are hurting people, including myself, who was an engineer, still can't find a job because of just one conviction. So that's why I don't even work in that field anymore. I shun that field, and I'm working in this field now, and I'm trying to change the laws because of that. So I'm trying to fix my mic here.
Yeah, no worries. Mike, maybe you could talk a little bit about, and how it's affecting, the employer side as well. I know that like all these low-level drug convictions and things that happen to people out there in our communities, it makes it extremely difficult for people to be able to find a job. Okay, so Todd, are you back? Can you hear us again, Todd?
I'm gonna try to rejoin because I cannot hear you guys.
Okay, all right.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ryan, while we're waiting for Todd to hop in, let me just talk quickly about some polling that was very positive that came out in just this last week relative to 207. And then when Todd jumps in, we'll get back to his topic. 2 polls were released this week. One was Monmouth poll, and that had Prop 207 polling at 56 to 36, 56 support, 36 against. And it also had Republican support up to 38% from 32%. So we're seeing a slight increase with that. The other poll, very similar, OH Predictive Insights. They were the people that about a month ago had a poll that was not very positive for 207 and sent everyone into kind of a freak out. But things have recovered. OH Predictive Insights actually, and there's 2 things that are good about this poll. They have it at 55% support to 37% opposed. 79% of Dems, 72% of independents are supporting, but they have Republicans down at 23%. But what's interesting about the OH Predictive Insights poll is that when they polled, they used ballot language to poll. So what they found is most of the other polls have been sort of a generic, do you support a legalization? They actually used ballot 207 language. And so that specificity of language actually bumped the polling up because people were actually saying, yeah, I support 207, not a generic idea of legalization. So thumbs up, 2 positive polls with 2.5 weeks away. And I will also say quickly, I've been doing phone banking. Last night, everyone I talked to has already mailed their ballot in, and everyone I spoke to was a yes on 207.
That's awesome. That's great. And there's a good thing too. I know that one of the topics, that's been brought up, for discussion is, one of employer rights, in the workplace, right? Mike, can you talk a little bit about what that actually means, the language within Prop 207?
I always carry the initiative with me, Ryan. I put it on my bedside. I don't sleep with it, but I do carry it with me. And there are concerns. People kind of think, right now in workplaces, we really can't go to work drunk. And most employers have, I know, damn. And most employers have actually, policies and procedures relative to there's, an alcohol-free workplace. That is what with the language in 207 supports that relative to cannabis as well. And I'm just going to read you the actual language. So 207 does not restrict the rights of employers to maintain a drug and alcohol-free workplace or affect the ability of employers to have workplace policies restricting the use of marijuana by employees or prospective employees. So that does give the workplace some protections relative to cannabis use. That is really language that when the initiative was written, polled well. And so that was put in there because we are a purple state. We're not we're not a state that's just going to say legalization is great. So we have to have some things in there in place to be able to reach people on the moderate side and to the right side relative to legalization and how that will affect playing out with respect to the workplace. So workplace will still have that protection relative to set policy, and that is guaranteed in 207.
Yeah, so going to work impaired is not something that, is included in this language, then, is what you're saying.
That is true. And it gives workplaces and businesses the right to set policy relative to that. Now, I will say one thing that I am committed to fighting once legalization happens is pre-screening drug testing for marijuana, because if marijuana is legal, no one should be denied employment based on a positive drug test relative to pre-screening. So that's something we will definitely fight. But relative to workplaces and businesses having their rights, those are not abdicated relative to Prop 207.
Yep. So getting back, Todd, are you all good now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, awesome. So love to hear a little bit more about how it's affected you. That low-level conviction. I know you talked a little bit about it here before, but when you said that you're not working within the industry that you got your degree in to be able to do, right? That was your field, and you were an engineer, right? Yeah.
Well, that's an associate's degree, but still, I'm not able to get a job in the field because of that conviction. It's plain and simple. Even though I had 26 years of experience at Intel Corporation, I still couldn't get a job since 2013 when I got laid off. So it's been 7 years already that I couldn't get a job because of that. So,
and Todd, you said just a half a gram
of marijuana.
Yeah, guys, this is real. This is a real issue. People have problems with this every day. What are those numbers, by the way? Every day, people getting arrested in Arizona, right? For low-level offenses that screw up their life, the rest of their life.
15,000 a year.
12 to 15,000 a year. I agree, Todd. In Arizona, who have their lives adversely affected through a marijuana.
15,000, including my son. My son got arrested for the same shit. Now his life's fucked up because of it.
Yeah.
And I will say too, one thing that people
French, but yeah.
And one thing that people really need to understand relative to legalization is we are the only state in the nation where anything from a speck of cannabis to 2 pounds is a class 6 felony by state statute. Now, granted, certain prosecutors will bump down and run those charges through misdemeanor courts, but by state statute, Arizona is a felony possession state.
Yeah. Yeah. How many of them out there are like that, Mike?
We're the only one that still has a class 6 felony from a speck to 2 pounds.
The only one across the country that has all right, great. If that's not enough reason to change the laws, guys, I don't know what is. Just right there. We are behind the times on this stuff here.
And that's exactly what we're about, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Right. So now I see a couple questions that are coming in here, guys. I think we should, kind of address some of these, things that are being said here. So I've got one, from, let's see here, Derek. I'm going to show it up here on the screen as well. Let's see. Oh, it just bumped down there. Will medical still be a thing if recreational is legalized, like Nevada with lower tax rate for medical patients? Mike?
Absolutely. Really, what Prop 207 creates, Derek, is a dual system. The medical program stays intact, and the recreational system operates separately. It could still be run by a dispensary owner who might have a license for medical and recreational, but medical will stay the same. And one thing that's really important that I think sometimes gets overlooked relative to 207 is, as you guys know, we're all patients. We don't have grow rights if we live within 25 miles as the crow flies from a dispensary. 207 frees up grow rights for the entire state. So even as patients, while right now, if like I live in Tucson, I don't have grow rights because I'm close to a dispensary, 207 will free that up and give everyone, patient or non-patient, grow rights, six plants to one person over 21, and for 2 or more people, 12 plants. So it will actually supplement the medical program by enhancing grow rights.
Thanks, Mike. Here's another one. Actually, it's about taxes, a little bit here, from Shane. I'll just pop this sucker up here real quick. Shane says, let's see. Actually, it's in response, I think, to earlier one there. But, it says, but if you have to, or if you have or obtain medical card, you get better products and 7% lower taxes. So as far as the products go, I think, what they've had, what the language reads is that they're going to restrict the amount of dosage, per container or per package to 100 milligrams, right? Yep. And each individual dose is restricted to a maximum of 10 milligrams per dose.
But that's strictly recreational, Ryan.
Yeah, right. That's on the adult use side right there. Right. But, Todd or Mike,
medical side is going to stay the same. You can still get your 300 milligram bars. Yep. You can get your 500 milligram, your 1,000 milligram, whatever, on the medical side. So definitely keep your card. It's worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
And is there a different tax percentage for the medical patients versus, the adult use side?
Yes. The current tax rate stays the same for medical patients, which is whatever the cities have. It's like anywhere from like 8 to 10% right now. And then on the recreational side, it's going to be 16%. So
on top of state taxes,
on top of state taxes. So you'll be paying more. One thing I did see when I went to Colorado was that there was a different line when you went in. Rec side was one, med side was the other. The flour was the same, but it cost $400 for rec and $100 for medical. So right there, you're saving $300 on an ounce, just based on what Colorado's done, and then you got lower taxes on that. So definitely a positive aspect to keeping your medical card in Arizona.
And actually, there is language relative to taxes that the taxes cannot exceed 30% on a cannabis purchase, because they're anticipating what if there is federal legalization or removing cannabis from the Controlled Substance Act, which deschedules it. If that were to happen, the feds, if you look at, like, for example, the MORE Act, it does tack on a 5% tax. So if there were ever any federal movement, the initiative is anticipated that such that those combined taxes cannot go past 30%. And so we think that's a good thing as well.
Yes. So, there's another piece in here. Let's see. I'm sorry, guys. I'm looking at comments and stuff here as well. I see one from Michael here. Can we talk about the allocation of funds with 207? That is my biggest concern in this bill. I think it's a lot of people's concern, in this bill. And I know, Mike, since you've got, the paperwork right there, right in front of you, I think that's, that's something that I'd like to, kind of bring up here. I think that's a very good point. So when you're talking about allocation of funds,
I can actually just read it off. This is actually my cheat sheet that I always carry around. But there are actually two funding sources in Prop 207. One is an existing source, which is the medical marijuana fund, which will do a one-time transfer each year. And how that works is the medical marijuana fund will transfer, and I'm just going to give the numbers. It transfers $15 million to Arizona Teachers Academy, and that actually benefits K through 12. The Teachers Academy is an academy that supports K through 12 education, because sometimes you'll see the opponents will sign. You'll see a sign that says no on 207, no K through 12 money. That's true that the funding is set for community colleges, but the Arizona Teachers Academy does benefit K through 12. There's 10 million then to public health. Then there's another 10 million to highway safety. Then there's 4 million to qualified nonprofits. And this is really important, 4 million to qualified nonprofits to assist individuals with the expungement process. So what 207 has done is not only create the expungement mechanism, but also allow for funding to nonprofits to assist those people who are interested in working with expungement. And then an extra 2 million to the development of social equity programs. That is what comes out of the medical marijuana fund. Secondly, there's a Smart and Safe Arizona fund, and that will then distribute funds between June 30th and December 31st of each year. And that's where you get 33% of what that is, because that's coming from the excise tax. 33% of that funding will go to community colleges. 31.4% will go to public safety. This is really a big one, 25.4% to the HERF funds. And HERF is the Highway User Revenue Fund, which is roads, which we all know. I have four-wheel drive on some of the roads out down here in Catalina, outside of Tucson. And 10% to the Justice Reinvestment Fund. So that is the actual breakdown of the funds and where they go relative to 207.
Michael, I hope that helps answer some of your questions there, with the allocation of funds for 207. We've got another question here I think looks pretty good. Let's see, and I think, Todd, you might be coming through a little crackly there on the stuff. Let's see here. Get back over. Okay, so here's one. Let's see, is recreational bound by the limits? For example, in some recreational states, we can't have higher than 13% THC levels. That's a great question. I know that there was something that was actually tried to be passed, was it last year or the year before, Mike?
That was the infamous HCR 2045, which was Speaker of the House Bower's attempt at making our medical marijuana program a hemp program by lowering the THC cap to medical to 2%. Now that got amended out, but it was a hateful bill. And it also allowed only research for two topics: the Association of Marijuana and Schizophrenia and the Association of Marijuana and Violent Behavior, and added another tax onto the medical marijuana program to fund that research. So we're not fond of HCR 2045. But no, in 207, Ryan alluded to the only real mention of basically potency caps, and that is relative to edibles. 100 milligrams per pack separated out in 10 milligram serving. But there's no mention of THC limit or any of that.
That's great. And let's see, I think I'm going to grab one more question. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the clarity there. All right, so something that keeps coming up here is are you going to be able to keep what you produce in your cultivation at home? What happens if you produce more than 1 ounce? Which is what they say that the limit is, right? That you can carry or have up to in your possession of 1 ounce, right? Well, if you are actually cultivating it, and I saw this was actually clarified in a nice little slide deck last night by one of our attorney partners here. I think Tom Dean put that together. Did you guys check that out? I'll post it after this. But one of the things that's interesting is that you actually get to you can keep what you produce out of your home cultivation area. So if you produce a pound out of your 12 plants, then that's what you get to keep. It's not for resale. It's not that's what you get to keep for your own personal consumption. So they're not going to come after you guys, for your own cultivation side, what you're able to produce there, if it's following the laws. And by the way, that 12 plants, that sounds kind of familiar, right? Mike, I think there's another state that neighbors us that does something similar to the limits that we've got. Doesn't Colorado have similar limits, for what you're able to grow at home?
Yeah, actually, our grow rights are actually pretty decent relative to other states. 6 and 12 plants is good. Remember, you might recall Colorado, I believe, started with 99 plants, but there was some diversion and maybe feeding into some of the opposition that if people are growing 6 plants, the cartels are in every neighborhood, which certainly isn't true. I don't know I don't know any cartel people, but I would assume cartels aren't interested in growing 6 plants.
Yep, sounds good. And thank you guys. I think we're going to kind of cut it right there for today. We're going to be doing more of these 10 15 minutes broadcasts every day, so look for us about 9 o'clock in the morning. Everyone, thank you, Todd. Thank you, Mike, for joining us.
Thank you, Todd.
All right, guys.
Have a great day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.